Hey guys, Chris Clothier here, going live with REI Nation, to the REI Nation group. Thank you very much for joining me. It is a happy Wednesday. Hang on one second. I'm doing it today. Kent Senior, we gave him the Wednesday off. We gave him the live video off. I told him I would handle it this week because I had a topic that I was really excited, put this away, to share and talk about. Look, so as one of the partners, not the founder was my dad and stepmom, but I joined as a partner a few years later. As one of the partners here, I've kind of been most active on, we'll just say, kind of our forward-facing side of our company. So shooting videos for us. I was the original video on the website, kind of welcoming people to our company. I've done a lot of social media for us. I've done the interviews. I've traveled the country and spoken at all types of different events. I've kind of held, we'll just call it the face side of the company. And I also wrote a book. Hang on, I have a copy. This is not a shameless plug. This is kind of the real deal for those of you that may not know. I wrote a book called The Turnkey Revolution. So this book came out of a lot of the blog writings and the talks I had given around the country about how to be a successful turnkey real estate investor. I talk from the point that we are a successful turnkey real estate company. Today, probably, there's just not a lot of data out there on this. So I don't want to speak too far out of turn, but probably the largest turnkey real estate company in the country. We are one of, if not the largest, privately held, closely held management firms managing single family homes. There are few that are privately held like us, so not owned by some hedge fund or PE firm or anything along those lines, but just a few family members that started something 2 decades ago that manage a company managing today. I think the number is north of 6,500. If you include everything that we have bought in our pipeline that we own that has not been marketed out yet, the number is closer to 6,800. So we're closing in on 7,000 properties under management. We'll easily eclipse that this year. And then we will, we'll start in the next year somewhere between 72 and 7,500. A lot of that depends on how many houses come to us that we don't buy and sell, that we take on as management for outside clients. So my point with all this, where am I going? Well, I put out kind of a provocative title earlier. If you're with me right now and you don't know what title we put out for today, it was why most turnkey real estate investors will lose in 2021. Now, I want to define a few things for you here real quick. When I say lose, I think I may have even said lose money eventually at the first time, but when I say lose, what I mean is they're going to miss their expectations. Some will lose money. Some just won't make what they thought they were going to make, and others will have bought into a complete pipe dream, unfortunately. And then I put turnkey in quotes for a reason. So I wanted to spend today talking about the number one question I get from investors. I started off telling you that I've been the face of the company, and so I am out in the public. I get somewhere between 600 and 700 emails a day. I apologize on the front end because I'm not the best at answering every single email that comes through. Some take me a little while. Some I get through in other areas. Some I connect with on Bigger Pockets. Others send me, messages here through Facebook. But I get between 600 and 700 emails a day. And the biggest question, the one that I zero in on the most from many investors is, how do I know? How do I know that a turnkey investment is good or not? I wrote the book, again, I go back to it. The purpose of this book was not to get people to buy from us. As a company, we're going to attract the investor that we are perfect for. And that's the intention. The intention is to attract the investor that's really going to benefit from doing business with us, but also help the investor that's not. So the investor where we're just not the right fit, help them get pointed in the right direction. So the book gives investors kind of a roadmap to, how do I protect myself? How do I make a good investment in a turnkey property? How do I not lose money? How do I determine if REI Nation is the right company or not? I think we are humble enough to know that we're not perfect for everyone, but we're competitive enough to try and figure out how to help everyone. We want to help everybody either invest with us or get pointed in the right direction so that they will hit their expectations and therefore not lose. So why will most turnkey investors lose in 2021? Well, here's why. This message that I'm getting back. Number one, the word turnkey. And I should be doing this on a slideshow. I wish I had slides or there's some way to like write on the screen and put messages out to everybody. We'll figure that out. We're advancing quickly in our use of technology. Soon we'll have videos up here and we'll have graphics going on and all kinds of kind of cool stuff for y'all. But for now, you're just going to have to listen and take notes. So write this down. Most people will lose because they're buying the word turnkey. They're buying just that word, all right? Turnkey. And they hear the word turnkey and it gives visions of ease. It's been talked about so much on sites like Bigger Pockets that today people think that turnkey is it's this solution that means that if the house says turnkey or if the company is marketing it as turnkey, it's going to be easy, it's going to be cash flow positive, and the day I buy it, everything's rocking and rolling. The unfortunate side is that the word turnkey is absolutely obliterated with any meaning today. So many different people use it, and I'm going to go through the questions you need to ask as an investor to make sure that the company you're doing business with is actually providing you with what you expect and not what you think that word means. Okay. So if you're on here and you're saying that I think the word turnkey means that somebody has bought a property, renovated it completely, places a resident into it and sells it to me with a 2-year lease in place or coming there shortly after, and then they own a management company that will manage it for me going forward, you'd be correct. That's a great definition of turnkey. The problem is I can only think of a few companies that actually do that. Most of them don't do every one of those steps the way I listed them out. In fact, there's probably less than a handful of companies that actually do everything I just said. Any variation thereof, I think, raises the risk of the investor and reduces the actual value you get as an investor from the word turnkey. In other words, there are many companies that will buy houses themselves and they'll do a renovation to it and then they'll sell it to you as an investor. When they do that, they say that company over there will manage it for you. So call them and get them to manage it. You're good. What ends up happening is now you have two people to talk to. Only both of them will blame the other if an issue comes up. And we see this over and over and over again. There's not just one person to talk to should an issue arise. Should there be repairs that need to be made at an early stage of the process? Should there be a vacancy at the early stage of the process? As the investor, you just want to know what's going on. But when there are multiple companies involved, it's easy to kind of play the shell game and pass the buck and say, well, call him, that's really on him, or call them, that's really on them. And so it's difficult for an investor to get answers and to get things handled. That same company will use the word turnkey to market their service. It's very easy. It's simple. All you got to do is come to us. I've already bought it, fixed it. All you got to do is buy it. I'll give you somebody to manage it. You're good to go. To me, that doesn't meet the process. There are companies out there today that they want you to pay the money on the front end. So you buy the house, I'll then manage it for you. I'll hire somebody to do the renovation that's some other third-party company, and then I'll hire some management on the outside, or I have my own management that'll manage it for you going forward. It's your deal. You use your money. You pay for the renovations. I'll just oversee it, and when it's all done, I'll manage it. Again, as an investor, you can see that if you expect that they've already bought the house and they sell it to you fixed up completely and they're going to manage it for you in the back end, those two things don't match up. I mean, that's another company, another example of a definition of a company that uses the word turnkey, but doesn't hit that definition. Oftentimes, investors will compare two opportunities. They both say they're turnkey, but they are completely different. But in the investor, they're looking at the returns like they're the same. They're simply looking at, I wish I had, yeah, I do. You have two pieces of paper and they're saying, one piece of paper says this return and one piece of paper says this return, but these are coming from two different companies that do two completely different processes. But I, as the investor, am equating these two together because they both say turnkey. Very, very confusing out there in the world for an investor today, which is why I came up with these questions. How can you avoid losing money? I mean, as an investor, what's the best way to make sure that you don't lose money as an investor? Well, I developed this list of questions, and I published this a bunch of times. I will put these in the group when I'm done. Okay. So I got this whole little list of questions. You can't read this. I know. I'm sorry. And in the future, these questions, like I said, we'll have all kinds of gizmos and gadgets that'll throw the question up there. I know the IT team is watching this, and they're furiously wondering what the heck I'm talking about, because they now have a new feature to provide on future videos, but we'll figure it out. I know it can be done. So anyway, so I'm going to share this list with you. I'm going to go through these questions today, and I've got one on here that's a biggie, that it's a big no-no that's happening right now in the turnkey industry. I'm going to get to it in about 10 minutes. So stay with me. The first question you need to ask as an investor, if you want to know, which of these two deals is the better deal based on two pieces of paper I'm looking at, and they both say they're turnkey. Here's the questions you need to ask to evaluate them. All right. Fair? Okay, here we go. Are you an investor? That's a kind of a simple, easy question today. It doesn't tell us as much as it used to 10 years ago, because 10 years ago, there's a lot of people that were just selling houses using the word turnkey, and they had never invested anything themselves. They were just hustlers, is the best way to put it. You got to tip your hat to them for getting out there trying to figure out a way to make money, but they weren't investors themselves. So they weren't bringing any clear value to an investor who might be buying a house from them, because they had no idea of what really made a deal good or not good. So the first question you want to ask is, are you an investor yourself? And I think you want to ask, follow up that. It's very important that, do you own in the same neighborhoods that you sell? So if you're an investor, if you ask a company, are you an investor yourself? And they say, yes, we are. Do you own in the exact same neighborhoods that you're selling houses out? I mean, do you have a portfolio as a company in the same areas? And here's the reason why you're asking this question. And this is why it makes, it's really important. Years ago, I was speaking in San Francisco, and I was invited to come to an event, and I was one of several people. And it's kind of embarrassing to look back on it now, because it was, you don't recognize it at the time, but you can when you look back, that it was a pitch event is what it was. So there's a room full of investors, and a bunch of companies were coming up there pitching their company, pitching their houses. Come buy some houses for me today. I brought 10 houses with me for sale. First come, first serve, all this kind of, craziness. Well, a guy gets up there and he gives a really good talk. I mean, I was engaged. I was listening. I thought he did a really good job, and he was selling. It doesn't matter the market. I'm not going to mention it because I don't want anybody to send me emails saying, I love that market. I can't believe you would talk bad about it. It doesn't matter. It was in the Midwest, and it was a city that was really struggling at the time. This is right after the recession. We're not even out of it yet. Probably 2009, 2010, somewhere in that range. And the guy gets up there and he pitches this city. And I mean, it's like dirt cheap. It's unbelievable how low the prices are, the houses he's selling. The returns are ridiculous. I mean, it should be screaming risk to everybody. Red lights should be going off that there's something wrong here. And the guy's from San Francisco. He's from the Bay Area. So when he gets done, he comes to the back of the room. Somebody else is up there talking for a few minutes. Everybody gets up and talks for like 15 minutes or so. And he comes back to me, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. I was like, how are you guys doing over there? I was like, I know that city's still struggling. How's your portfolio performing? It was so funny. He looked at me, he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, I don't invest in these properties. He's like, I don't own this crap. He's like, he's like, I've got a couple of houses over on the West Coast that I invest in. He's like, this is just stuff I'm selling. He's like, I'm not going to invest there. Okay. That was very telling. And, I kid you not, I proceeded to go on stage, and, back then we didn't bring properties for sale. I didn't have properties for sale. We've always been one of those, like, the company that tries to attract. So I just went up there and told him, I said, look, here's the difference between me and that company you just heard from a few minutes ago, and maybe a few others around here. I was like, I sell, at the time we were only in Memphis. And I said, we sell properties in Memphis, Tennessee. I was like, it's where I live every day. It's where I go to work every day. And, I owned at the time, I think I still had 30 or 40 properties. I hadn't reduced my portfolio yet down to the select few that I really, really liked. But just the same. I'm sitting there and I told everybody, I said, that guy back there in the back selling Detroit, I was like, he doesn't even invest in Detroit. I'm like, why the hell would you buy from somebody that is selling you a city that he doesn't own in himself? I was like, if you're going to do business with somebody, do business with somebody that believes in what they're selling enough to have their own portfolio there. That is something that you really need to watch today, because with the advent of the internet, it's very, very easy. And there's a lot of people that still do this today, that they're located in one location and they sell another location, which there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. The question is, do you yourself own in that location? Or are you just selling that to other investors? Because it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. It just means you don't believe enough in it to own it there yourself. You're just selling this and building a business and making money, which everybody has a right to make money. But as an investor, I've got a right to know that you personally don't believe enough in that city to own your portfolio there, to have any houses there, to make any real commitments there. You're just flipping money to somebody like myself that's going to own. So it's really important. Are you an investor? And then do you own in the same neighborhood you sell? It tells you a lot. Again, I'm not telling you this is good or bad. It just tells you a lot, and it makes it easy to evaluate two separate opportunities. Do you own all facets of your operation? So I go back to what I was saying earlier. There's a lot of people that, they buy the house, but they don't do the renovation themselves. They outsource that to someone else. And I mean, totally someone else. Like there is a GC on the job who may report back to them, but that GC is doing all the renovation work. So all the money's going there, all the contact goes there. There are companies out there that they will outsource their management. They'll tell you that they're managing it, but really they outsource it to someone else. Now they may collect information and give it to you, but they're not involved in the day-to-day. And then there's people that just straight up, all I do is buy and sell the house. There's somebody else that renovates it. There's somebody else that manages it all together. I have nothing to do with that. I think it's important. Again, not a deal killer, but it's important because issues happen, things happen. I tell people all the time, I have conversations every week, with our clients or with investors that are interested in us. We're not perfect, not even by a long stretch. That's why we show up every day. There's still a lot of improvement for us to make as a company. We've got, a little over 100. I'm not sure if it's to 110 yet, but we've got 100 plus team members that are all fantastic. They all work their backsides off, man. We're such a great team. But why do they show up every day? Because we're not perfect. Every single day, there's something we can do to get a little bit better. So when we look at the responsibility of taking $150,000 to $250,000 investment from an investor, they're buying that asset from us. Our job is to make sure that every piece of that experience goes the way they expect. When we miss, we own it. We got to go fix it. But we nail it a vast majority of the time. A vast majority of the time. Why? Because we own every piece of that operation. There's not one thing that slips through the cracks without us finding out about it and seeking to fix it. Nothing. And so it's not my responsibility. Call somebody else if you don't like the management, or call that guy. He's the one who did the renovation. All I did was buy and sell the house. That's not us. That's not what we do. I think as an investor, most investors, if you're seeking out Turnkey because you want a hands-off experience, you want the ability to rely on somebody who's going to be reliable, then they need to own all pieces of the operation. That's just been my experience through the past. Okay. Do you offer rental and maintenance guarantees? Everybody laughs at me when I say this, that they're trying to figure out what I mean by this. Do you offer a rental or a maintenance guarantee? This is not we stand behind a 1-year maintenance warranty, nothing like that. That's not what I mean. When somebody tells you on the front end that, hey, buy a house from me and I will guarantee that you get 100% of your rent in the first year, 12 months rent, and I guarantee you will not have a maintenance issue in the first year, guarantee. The problem I have with that, and again, it's because I've been around this industry forever and since it began, and I'm the one who's been all out on the road speaking, meeting all these other companies out there, and the people that really developed this technique is people learn to sell the guarantee. Don't sell the house, sell the guarantee. And if somebody buys the guarantee, all you have to do is meet the guarantee. Nothing else matters. So In other words, somebody sells a house and they do the minimal amount of work they need to do to get somebody to buy it. They jack the price up as high as they can, make as much money as they can on it. Again, I don't knock anybody for that. But then offer these maintenance and rent guarantees on the back end. So that if you're unlucky and you get a $1,000 maintenance issue in month 7, but you made $50,000 on the sale, pay it. That's no big deal. The house goes vacant. You owe them some rent for 3 or 4 months. Pay it. It's no big deal, because month 13, guarantee's over. Now it's your problem. Now it's your house. I didn't fix it right. I'm not very good at management. So what? I only guaranteed you 12 months. Since I guaranteed you 12 months, I met my guarantee. You bought the guarantee. So that happens all the time. It happens all the time in this industry. That is one of the biggest sales pitches that goes on out there today is, I'm going to get you with the guarantee. So I tell people, fine, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're an investor, here's what you do. If you're looking at 2 deals and one's got a guarantee and one doesn't, the company that's got the guarantee, tell them, I love that. It's good. You're willing to stand behind your product. If you fix it right and you're good at managing, you shouldn't have an issue in year 1 to begin with. You shouldn't have any maintenance issues. You really shouldn't have any move outs in that year 1. It happens, but if you're any good at what you do, that's going to be rare. So the guarantee really shouldn't count for much in year 1. Why don't we put that guarantee on year 2? If you're really good, if you really stand behind what you say, why don't we put that guarantee in year 3? Because the first couple of years, it should be like really minor. I shouldn't really expect to have too many issues. So when issues may begin to occur, by that 3rd year, put your guarantee in that 3rd year. That's what I'll take. And the response is always the same. Absolutely not. Why would I guarantee that? I'm selling, the pushback is, well, if you don't want to buy from me, go to somebody else, because I'm giving you a guarantee and you're not smart enough to take it. No problem. See you later. A great company doesn't have to offer that guarantee in year 1. They'll give you that same guarantee down the line if you have to have it. Me, I don't sell guarantees. Our team doesn't do it. When I saw this happening on the road, I came back and told our team, we will never, ever advertise guarantees. I guarantee you, we know how to build long-term lasting relationships. We know how to treat people right. We know how to follow our core values, and core value number 1 is always do the right thing. We know how to do that. That's easy. I don't need some guarantee to get you to buy a house from me for that. But those that do, ask them to put the guarantee where it really counts, year 2 or year 3. If they do, you got a good, you might have a good company. It might be something worth going for. I don't know anybody that does, but if they did, man, that would certainly be a good thing. I would tip my hat to them. That's good. So another question that we get here, another question that you need to ask is, do you defer any maintenance? So what does that mean? There's a lot of people that get houses rent ready. Rent ready is the idea that I've done just the minimal amount of work to get the property rented. It may not get the best resident. It may not get the highest rent, but it will get somebody in. That's what rent ready means. It's an excuse, in my opinion, for investors or investment property owners to do the least amount of work possible to get it occupied. And we're just not. We don't subscribe to that theory. I'm all in now. And when I say you guys know I'm representing REI Nation. I'm representing my dad, my brother, us. With us, we're all in with the idea that we're going to eliminate absolutely as much of the deferred maintenance as possible. It just smooths out the road for the investor. It smooths out the process and the experience they're going to have. It leads to longer occupancy. We are on pace, if this year holds, and we're 1/4 of the way through, and the heaviest move out period of the year has already occurred. So we feel confident that we just might be reporting a 7-year average length of occupancy at the end of this year. It's going to be close. I know it's going to be more than 6. We're already at 6, which is higher than what we've been reporting last year of 5, because again, we just keep turning over so little of our portfolio. Residents keep extending and staying in their properties, that's like music to the ears of investors. So, and one of the big reasons why that happens is that we don't defer maintenance. We don't skip on things. If you come across a company that says, look, if the roof has got 7-8 years left and the AC can run at least for another year, I think, and you got a furnace over there that we did some repairs to it, and it should get you at least about another year, maybe 2. If this stuff works, why replace it? Just wait down the line. Don't spend the money today. That's not us. If it has good life left in it, and I don't know exactly where we draw the line. We'll have to ask Mark Anderson, but I mean, it's not 1 year, it's not 2 years. I mean, if it's got long life left in it, we may not replace it. We may service it instead. But if it doesn't, it's out of here. It comes back in. I don't want to defer maintenance. I don't put half a roof on because the other half looks good. That's just not, that's deferring issues down the line. How many properties do you manage? This is an important question. You ask this and write this down, okay? If they tell you that they don't manage properties, again, that's not a true turnkey company. Could be something pretty detrimental in my opinion. But if they do, you're getting down the line with these two opportunities and they're lining up pretty even. They both manage. How many properties do you manage? Write it down. I'll tell you why here in a second. So then you come to a couple of big ones. I'm going to save this one for just a second. I'm probably to the point where I need to make sure I give you this particular question, but how long have you been in business? It's an important question because anybody that's been in business that started after really 2012, I don't care how big they are. I don't care how good they are. I don't care what their reputation is. That means they started their turnkey buying, selling, and managing post-recession during the recovery. It's not a bad thing. It just means that they haven't managed through really, really trying times. They haven't managed during a period of time when homeowners are losing their homes, investors who didn't take care of their investments properly are losing their investments. Investors who had deferred maintenance can't keep up with their maintenance bills. It takes a lot to be able to manage a company through challenging times. And I can only tell you that it's worth noting. A company that's been founded after 2012, and the closer they are to today, they were founded, a company that's 2 or 3 years old, guys, I'm telling you, they're managing, buying, selling, renting, all that during the heyday. This is it's literally like fantasy land right now, with the reputation that's out there and the ease of which it is to do business today. From the buying and the selling and the management side. It takes a real knucklehead to mess things up today. And there's plenty of knuckleheads out there. But listen, what it tells you as an investor, all you're looking for right here is, okay, I've got to evaluate how they're going to handle crisis. How are they going to handle crisis? Doesn't mean good or bad. Doesn't mean you don't do business with them. It just means I need to evaluate, how do they handle crisis? How are they going to deal in a crisis scenario? That's it. That's what you're looking for. Now, I'm going to get to the biggie before I get to some nitty gritty questions down here because, and I probably, it's my fault, guys. I should have done this question probably right at the beginning because this is I'm going to spend 3 minutes. I'm going to spend 3 minutes on this. Do you own the properties that you sell? There's a lot of companies that will make it to this point, okay, with smoke and mirrors in your conversation. They'll get you here just by answering and dancing around your questions and not really conveying to you yet that they're not a real turnkey company. There's lots of people out there that I call turnkey. They're called turnkey promoters. That's what I call them. I don't really know what the hell they are. Excuse my language there, guys, but it frustrates me. There's one in particular. There's several in particular that what they do is they take an investor like any of you watching here today, and they win your confidence, okay? They usually have some experience buying turnkey properties themselves, so they're sharing their experience with you. That's a good thing. And they're going to help you buy turnkey properties. They promote themselves as a turnkey company. So at this point, by all indications, you're dealing with somebody that's going to be responsible for everything all the way through. And then you ask the question, do you own the properties you sell? And they answer you, no. Or we don't sell anything. I introduce you to the people that sell. So all I do as a company, they're going to tell you that all they do, they just guide you, give you guidance, give you advice. They hold your hand through the process. They're going to They're going to hand you off to somebody that's a trusted company that they like and they trust to do business. And then they're going to look at the numbers with you if you want them to. But in the end, all I do is tell you who I think you should buy from. Those same companies equate themselves to as the same as the company that actually buys, sells, renovates, manages properties going forward. And the worst thing about it is that a company like that, and I will use REI Nation here as an example. REI Nation, the way we create revenue, okay? We buy a house with our money. We renovate it with our money. We place a resident into it with our money, our marketing. And then I sell that as a packaged piece of property. It's a performing asset at this point. And I sell that to an investor that sees the value and wants to earn the return that they can get from the rental of that asset. Then we will manage it going forward. We make money on the difference. I buy, I renovate, I hold and market, and then I sell. And then over here, I'm managing. So I make money two ways. It's very clear, very cut and dry. In fact, most of everything that we do in most of the states, not every state, but it's all public records. So you can always see everything going on. That's why we provide a scope of work to see as much transparency as we can into what we're paying when we're doing all these renovations. It's very transparent to figure out how we make money. A turnkey promoter, you need to ask somebody that says, no, I'm here to help you make good decisions. I'm going to advise you. How do you make money? And when they tell you that the company I give you to and advise you to buy from pays me when you buy a house from them, I want you to understand what that means. That means the investor themselves, that is the product. Not the house, not the management, the investor. Their job to get you hot and bothered, ready to go, real, here we go, let's go buy us a house, give you to somebody that's going to sell you a house, and then they're going to give me money. As long as you understand that on the front end, there's no problem with that business model. If you want to use somebody like that, here's the question you ask them. Okay. So you make money when I buy from that company that you're telling me is really good. And they're going to say, yes, that's exactly correct. Cool. How is your personal portfolio doing with that company? That's going to be a stumper. I wish you had them on video when you ask that question, because that'll be, to see their face then would be a great answer, because their answer is going to be, well, I don't have a portfolio with them, but I got a lot of clients that do, and everybody's happy, but I don't actually own with them. I just make money when I send other people to them. So the next question from you as an investor is, to be clear, the only reason you're telling me to buy from that company is they pay you money. Again, that'll be the most uncomfortable question you can ask them. I would pay money to see them answer that on video, because that's the reality of what's happening. If somebody has a portfolio with another portfolio, like if somebody has a portfolio with REI Nation and then tells you, hey, you should buy from them, and you ask them, well, how's your portfolio doing? They can answer it. Now there's a reason for you to at least explore. But when somebody says, I don't own with them, but they pay me money to tell you to go with them, that's an issue. And that stuff happens all day. And the worst part about it is they promote themselves as straight turnkey companies. They use the word turnkey everywhere. They promote themselves as turnkey, and it is what it is. But this is how you decipher. Again, if you've got two opportunities here, and one is from a turnkey company and one's from a turnkey promoter that says, hey, I got this house over in, wherever, Timbuktu over here, and it's really good. You should probably buy it from them. I mean, okay, fine. How are you making money? Why are you telling me to go buy from them? Well, that's how I get paid. I get paid when you buy from them. Cool. How's your portfolio? Well, I don't actually own with them. As an investor, I don't know why anybody would move forward. Why would you ever buy a house from somebody that says, I don't invest with them? It's the same as buying houses in cities where somebody says, I don't own there. Goes back to that first question. But yet investors today in 2021 are making that exact mistake. They are buying houses on the advice of other people without asking, how do you make money? And do you own properties with this company? how's your portfolio performing? They don't ask those questions. They just take it, on faith. This person said that's a good company, I'm going to buy from them. And they're, once that's done, they've made their money. They have no financial stake there. You go back, you have a problem, and you go back to that promoter and say, hey, this company you told me to buy from, I'm having problems with them. They're going to say, yeah, I don't know what you want me to do about it. You made the decision to buy from them. I just told you they were good. You see that stuff all the time. It happens on Bigger Pockets all the time. Heck, there's one promoter who went on there a couple of weeks ago and just blasted this lady who came on and called them out by name for, not assisting them. And their answer pretty much was, you made the decision to buy. You made the decision, not me. I just told you they were a good company. It's not my fault. All right, I'm gonna get off my high horse. All right, because I've got some additional questions for you to ask. We are 35 minutes into this, and I've got some really good questions of the last 20 minutes that you need to ask, because now this is where we have really begun to kind of divide companies out. Now we're starting to see a little bit. We're down to the companies that buy, sell, renovate, buy, renovate, sell, manage everything. They do everything. I'm really feeling good as an investor because I've got a couple opportunities, and so far we're even. Now I'm going to find out who's really good. I call it, this is something you want to do where you're asking the same question, but from a different angle at a later time. And so here's the question. You've already asked them how many properties do they manage. You want to ask them, what's your average vacancy rate? Write it down. Okay. They've told you how many properties they manage and you wrote it down. What's your average vacancy rate? Meaning every month, about how many properties are vacant. Write that down. Sometime later in the conversation, you're going to ask the mirror of that question. You're going to ask the opposite way. So what is your average occupancy rate? You're looking to see if those two numbers actually match up. If they tell you our average vacancy rate is 2%, and what's your average occupancy rate? And they're thinking quick, it's about 95%. Usually, yeah, we're about 95% full. Those numbers don't match. That's what you're looking for. Anybody can give you numbers and KPIs right off the top of their head. And two kinds of people do it. Those that are really on top of their numbers and liars. So you want to know, which one am I dealing with? Am I dealing with somebody that's got their numbers down? Or am I dealing with somebody that makes it up as they go and tells me what I want to hear? That's what you're trying to find out. So what percentage of your expiring leases renew every month? It's a good question to ask. Write the answer down. How about what percentage of your leases fulfill their full 2-year term, or their full, because they may not be 2 years, they're full year term. You want to ask them, what's your average length of lease? If they say that we get 1-year leases or 2-year leases or 5-year leases, whatever it's going to end up being, what is the lease that you offer? Obviously somebody that says I'll do a 2-year lease versus a 1-year lease, the 2-year lease is going to be better. Somebody that says I do some 2-year leases, but most are 1-year lease. Again, it's better than everything being 1 year, but it's not quite as good as somebody that says I only do 2-year. And somebody that says, there's companies out there that do longer than 2-year leases. You want to find out what percentage of those are that length. That's just, again, this is a number you want to be aware of. What percent of billed rent do you collect each month? So if you bill 100% of the billed rent that you can, do you collect 95%, 96%, 98%, 99%? You want to know. Most everybody's going to give you this really high number, okay? And if they collect 99% of the billed rent every month, but 80% of their residents fulfill their lease term, and 93% extend their leases, and you start getting these like wild variations of numbers, things that just don't add up, then they're making it up as they go. They're not prepared for your question, and they're making up the answers as they go along. You want to ask for a list of management fees. So exactly how do they make money on the management side? I think it's important. You should have a list. Is it a bunch of different little things that you can get nickel and dimed, or is it one thing? Is it 2 things, 3 things? How do they make money on the management side? Ask that question. What percent of collected rent goes to maintenance? They should know. They should be able to tell you the exact percentage of the rent they collect. Do they keep and pay for maintenance, or do they take 100% of their rent, pay it out, but then bill you for maintenance for you to pay back in? Either way, they need to be able to tell you that out of every dollar, What percent is going to go to maintenance? They should have that number. I'm good with it. I normally ask these questions on a yearly basis. So what percentage of yearly rent goes to maintenance? What's your average months of occupancy per property? It's important. Again, you're lining all these questions up based on how many leases renew, what's their average length, how many of them fulfill, how many of them collect and pay on time every month. Again, you asked, what's the number of months of occupancy? What's the average percentage of occupancy every month? So here's some really, I think, key questions at the end here, because everything you just asked, that's KPI driven. So you're kind of wondering, again, I want to take notes on all this, and I want to write down what's most important in each of these scenarios. So if I'm trying to judge two companies or two properties, I can write down all the answers from each of them and judge them side by side. And then I can look for inconsistencies. I'm going to give you an example in a second of some inconsistencies I'll give it to you now, because these last ones are all service oriented. So I had a company here in town. A guy called me about 2 years ago. And he said, hey, I'm really struggling between you and another company in Memphis, because you, REI Nation, you're priced higher. At the time we were Memphis Invest. He's like, you're priced higher than they are. I said, okay, that's fine. He's like, I think he said, you're a premium service. I was like, okay. And he said, and they're telling me that they're a premium service, and essentially they say everything you say. He's like, there's not a lick of difference between the two of you. There's no sunlight between y'all, because everything you tell me, they tell me. Everything you say about service, they say about service. I said, okay. He said, but I'm having trouble with something. I said, well, what is it? He's like, I don't think that their numbers all line up. I said, well, what's not lining up? And he said that they put an answer on BiggerPockets site and then told it to me that they have about a 1.5% vacancy rate right now. I said, okay. And he told me, he said, you guys are like 2.5% at the time. And I told him, I said, let me just be straight with you. To get a 2.5% vacancy rate is, it's practically impossible. It's almost impossible. It means that the amount of work and effort to get to that point, and how far we were working 6 months in advance to renew leases in order to drive vacancy down that low. I was like, it's almost impossible. But we also, a lot of it had to do with the residents that we were putting in our houses and the locations we were in, because, we just happened to have more stability. Well, as we're sitting here talking, I told him, I said, we invest in different parts of the city. And he was like, yes, y'all do. And I was like, they're not investing in a part of the city that's as stable as where we are. So I don't know. I said, what's your question? He's like, well, I just want to know if they can really have 1.5% vacancy. And I said, well, yes, because we're down at 2.5%. I was like, they can't, it's possible. It's possible to have 100% occupancy. I said, but you want to look at a couple of things to find out. And here's what you want to look at in my opinion. I said, go to their website online and see how many houses they have available. I was like, then look them up on Facebook and look at their ads that they're running right now for residents. I said, then go back to the questions you asked them. I said, and look at how many houses that they're managing. And I said, if you will take the number of houses they're managing and you divide it by the number of homes that are available on their website for rent, that'll tell you what their vacancy is right now. And it was interesting. He came back and said their vacancy rate is around 12% right now. And he said they got about an inordinate number. They've got 200 basic vacancies and about 1,500 properties under management. And I said, yeah, that's what you find out. I was like, when numbers are out there, when you have ways to be able to verify data, you ask these questions, because you just, don't be confrontational. Just ask the questions. Just tell me what your numbers are. And just about everything that you ask can be verified or can be asked again, can be asked with the mirror question, because what you're looking for is who's trustworthy and who's just selling me, a bill of goods because it sounds good. Um, it was really funny because I had another company. And one time I had lunch with a guy here in town who, at one time you would call us competitors. Not anymore. Today we're much more like we're just two businesses that operate on the same, in the same niche industry. Super supportive of each other, talk about best practices, all that kind of stuff. But at the time, he came by my office and he was blown away by the office. I walked him through everything, introduced him to everybody. And he was like, man, this is, number one, here we are competitors. He's like, I can't believe you're doing this. But at the same time, I walked him down this hallway we had back then that had all of our customer service people. And we walked outside and we were done talking. He was like, man, I'm just blown away. I said, by what? He said, I can't believe you have all those customer service team members back there in that back hallway. He's like, that's a lot of money you're spending to have people just call people on the phone every month. And I looked at him and said, your company advertises that y'all call investors every month, that you have a customer service team. And he kind of got sheepish and was like, well, we don't really have that. He's like, it sounds good. And we only did it, we only say that because you say that. And when you're in this competition to keep up with everybody else, you feel like you have to say things and tell people things to keep up with everybody. So, we didn't think y'all were doing that. We thought it's crazy to have all these team members that you're paying to call people every month. He's like, that seems crazy to us. And I told him, I said, that's probably why I'm considered a premium service and you guys aren't. And like I said, today we're good friends. That's an old conversation. That's probably 5 years ago, but it still illustrates the fact that you as an investor, you just got to ask these questions, which brings me to the last ones. So here we go. You want to ask, what programs do they have in place to keep residents happy? We've learned through the years that if I can keep the residents happy, they're going to stay longer. The longer the resident stays, the happier the investor is going to be, because their investment is going to be consistent and stable. So I want to do everything. I will spend any dollar I need to spend to keep residents happy within reason, provided that it improves the experience of my owner. So if I can improve owners' experiences by keeping residents happy, you bet your backside I'm going to be putting programs into place to keep residents happy. You want to ask that question. What are they? What do you do? It could be as simple as we answer every single call, or I have on average one person to manage, because some people, they do the silo management where a manager themselves has a group of properties that they provide all the services for, but they've reduced it down where I will not let anybody have more than 100 houses per manager, so they can provide really good service to each of those residents. Whatever it ends up being, what is it and why? You want to know. And if there's not anything there, I'm here to tell you from experience, it's hard to keep residents in homes for long-term if you don't care about them, you don't take care of them, and you don't meet their needs. Will you call me every month with an update on my portfolio? I already know the answer to that. You can ask the question. You should ask the question, because there's just not a lot of people that do that. I think that's a differentiator between us and everybody else out there. But look, I've got a group of a team downstairs in our building here who their only job, they don't sell houses. They're not there to try and get people to buy more. They don't talk to our residents. Their only job is to try their best to funnel information to our owners so that owners are kept in contact and up to date with what's going on with their portfolio. That's it. That's their only job. And today that's almost, I think it's like 10 or 11 team members down there that in that department, maybe a little bit off, maybe 9 or 10. But so you ask how many team members are dedicated solely to customer service? Ask, find out, see what they say. And here's a big one. So you can't ask this question, this last question. You can't ask this to just anybody on the phone, okay? But it's the most important question on here. You need to make sure you're talking to somebody that has some decision-making power, or maybe can influence the way a company operates. So it's a great question for somebody like me, okay? That's what I mean by this. Because I love getting this question. Plain and simple. What's been your biggest mistake as an investor, and how will you protect clients from that mistake? To me, this is the defining question that's going to separate who you're going to do business with. If everything else is completely equal and you ask this question and they both give you outstanding answers, you got a tough decision to make. But usually by the time you get to the end of these questions, and again, I've gone through them fast, I will put them in the group right after this meeting or after this video is done. You just want to know, tell me that you're real. Tell me that you have some empathy and experience as an investor and that there's something behind this other than just making a bunch of money. Why in the heck are you helping other investors build their portfolios? What mistakes have you made and how are you keeping me from it? For me, and I always tell investors this all the time, when I started out, there were periods of my time when I was building my first portfolio where I lost myself, okay? I got off track from my plan and I started buying houses from people because I could, because I had the Wachovia Bank or whoever it was, back at the time, I can't even think of the names of some of these banks. They would lend me, 100% financing for 10 houses on the same day. No money out of my pocket. All I had to do was pay the closing costs. Just the silliest, craziest stuff in the world. And I just wasn't smart enough to stick to my plan. I wasn't smart enough to stay within myself and say, I'm buying a house for a reason. Like, this is an asset that I want to provide a particular result for me. And I don't mean like what my return was going to be. I literally mean I wanted to buy the best assets I could. And I wanted to have good looking houses that residents would want to stay in long-term. I didn't want to overcharge people for being in a house. I didn't want people to have issues. I wanted things fixed immediately. That's what I wanted as an investor. But I allowed myself early on multiple times to buy deals that I had no business buying, houses that were in very, very challenged areas that it was going to be impossible for me to be able to provide the experience that I wanted that resident to have. And I was doing it with people that weren't going to be able to provide that service to the resident to begin with. So I bought houses and I built my portfolio because I could, and I didn't do it because I should. And so I lost track of why I invested in real estate to begin with. And I got cocky and greedy. I thought I was a really good investor, and I was probably one of the worst around, just doing some really, really dumb stuff. And so I tell investors today, it's one of the reasons why, as a company, we go so slow. I know it irritates some investors. I absolutely know there's probably investors on this call right now that are like, God, it bugs the heck out of me that everything is so slow with REI Nation. Like, you spend so much time making sure I'm qualified and that I'm a good fit for you and you're a good fit for me. And then, houses come out one or two at a time. And we're looking at, it's because we're trying to really, there's a lot of demand, and we understand that. We all know that. And that's a blessing for us. There's a lot of demand. So it's not like we're just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, throwing houses out there. We don't do that. We don't let investors buy houses from us without talking to us first. There's no website that says you can just go buy whatever you want. We don't have there's no shopping cart that you can just start throwing houses into and say, go to the checkout lane and say, I'm buying this. It doesn't work that way. We don't show investors every single house out there because it would be not for everybody. It would be extremely difficult to be a passive investor and truly know about every market we're in and the pockets of those markets and the houses that we're offering. So we try and break that down because we don't want investors to buy on impulse. We don't want investors to buy because of their fear of missing out. Not at all. We want investors to build their portfolio over time. We all want it fast, or at least faster. We want it to go as quickly as we can as investors. But we as a company, we decided a long time ago, we can't, we're not going to make the same mistakes that I made. And believe me, I'm grateful that my partners, my brother, my dad, they have agreed with me on that from the beginning. Because, my dad, he may have bought some houses that he regrets buying. I think my little brother, he doesn't. He's done really well. His portfolio is really, really good. And he exhibited a little more patience than I had at certain times. He wasn't willing to go out there and take risks that I was willing to make. And he stayed super focused. He built the portfolio exactly the way he wanted it. For me, I was a moron. I built a bad portfolio to begin with, and I paid a price for that. It hurt me for a little while, but that's what we try and protect investors from today. you want to ask that question. You're looking for a sincere, really good answer. Like I said, you got to talk to somebody that influences the way a company operates. So it's really a question you want to ask to one of the owners or somebody that's, really a decision maker behind a company. But, if you're at that point of deciding whether or not you're going to move forward with the company, you should be talking to somebody that's going to influence your success anyway. And so like on our side, that's why we make ourselves so accessible through here. We're not able to talk to every single investor individually before they buy. That's what we have this fantastic team around us for, that have been here, for so long. But we try and make ourselves as accessible as we can so you can get our thoughts and get our ideas. And, out of those 700 emails I get a day, invariably there's people in there that I'm able to reply to and get back with and help out. And that's what we try and do. This is the way we try and do it. Anyway, that is why many turnkey investors will lose in 2021, because they don't have the patience to go through these questions. They don't ask the right questions. They don't do the right due diligence. I've just given you a roadmap for this. Whether you buy from us or you buy from somebody else, don't be the investor that buys turnkey. You're just buying the word. It says turnkey, so I expect it to be this way. No, dig, do your due diligence. If you have opportunities, compare, companies and compare opportunities to make sure that what you're doing and who you're doing business with is one that's going to make you successful. Ultimately, in the end, that's what you have to have. So, guys, look, I really appreciate everybody joining me in here today. If you have questions, be sure and punch them in there at the bottom of our screen here. Put it in. I'll answer. I'll come back to you with anything that you need. So over the next few days, if you have questions, punch it in. I'll provide it to you. If you have commentary on the questions, shoot it in. Let's go back and forth a little bit. We love meeting and talking. Other than that, guys, my pleasure as always. Thank you to anyone that joined me live to listen to me chit chat for an hour and talking to you. Hopefully you took good notes. Hopefully you got something out of this, and we will see you next Wednesday. Between now and then, most likely it'll be Nate. It may be me and Nate together, but you will get an update on the rental progress for the month. I'm going to make sure we have that done this week. So it will happen tomorrow or Friday, a live video, myself and Nate, or just Nate, giving you a full update on where we are with our rental numbers, how collections are going. The team is doing phenomenal, fantastic. We are off to a record year of performance on the property management side, which is really something that's making the rest of our jobs easier. So I'll make sure we have that update in a couple of days. Until then, guys, we'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you for joining me live. Y'all take care. See ya.